Yay! Hey,
Hi.
everybody.
Hello.
Oh my goodness. It has been quite the week.
Yes. Yes.
Hope everybody's doing okay and has regained power and water.
Yeah. We are totally keeping everybody in our hearts and mind and hope that you have somehow survived or are surviving the epic
No
snowstorm.
apocalypse.
Yeah, snowpocalypse. I love that. Oh, snowpocalypse of 20. I keep wanting to say 2020,
I've
but
been
it's
2020 on
2021.
everything recently. It's like the year that won't end.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They're just like bleeding into each other and it is not fair. So 2020, the sequel, I guess.
2020 needs to just go.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. We have an awesome show planned for y'all tonight. We have one of my library nerdy friends, Sherry Gick, from 5 Star Technology here. I'm so excited to hear about her and her journey through technology. So today we're going to be teching with Sherry, and I can't wait to get started.
Awesome. Well, let's roll that intro.
Hey, hey, Sherry.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, of
Thank
course.
you for being here.
I
I
know
love
that.
the intro. I'm like grooving. I was like, whoa, going on camera. Better stop the dancing here.
Well, I know you and Stephanie go back, but this is the first time I'm meeting you, Sherry. So I know I've heard a lot about you from Stephanie about how amazing you are and just how knowledgeable. And I'm just super honored that you're on our little show today. And I have like the incredible honor of even meeting you. So thank you so much for being on our show today.
Again, thanks for having me. And it's great to meet you. And it's probably none of it's true. I'm sure it's all exaggerated.
All right, so we usually start our shows with book talks since it's What Are You Reading Wednesday. So do you want to start us off with what you're reading?
So I just finished reading The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. And that is our book club for this month. So, and it was amazing. I totally recommend it. I usually stay in that YA genre, you know, as far as like, I love YA since I used to be a librarian, right? As far as like, but I love picture books and graphic novels. But with our book club, it's teachers, some former teachers that I used to work with. And so, you know, we have this nice little small group and try to stretch out of my comfort zone and read adult books, which always sounds so dirty when I say that, right?
Yeah.
Adult books, oh, but you know, because we're so used to genrefying, right? As far as like we know what genre we're reading, but the Midnight Library, it's all about the in between. And so this woman wants to die basically, and she goes when she's in this state, kind of again the in between. It's a library filled with books. And every book that she takes is a different choice. So she says, I wish I had not talked to this guy at the coffee shop, as an example, right? And so then how her life plays out by making different choices. And every time, if she doesn't feel settled into what the new life looks like, she gets sent back to the library. And I'm getting chills telling you about it because it's, of course, library. I had to read it because of that. But Matt Haig, he's such a talented writer and interweaving in mental health and choices and things like that. So definitely add it to your list if it's not already there, right?
That's so good. It's like giving you the option to go to an alternate reality.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And it's like all these, I mean, again, parallel universes, I guess, right? Like if you just made this one little choice differently, then what's that ripple effect? How does that change literally your entire life?
It's like a choose your own adventure.
Yes, it truly is, right? As far as like, I love choose your own adventure. So great comparison. So yeah, that's what I just finished. So yeah.
That sounds very interesting. I need to read more. Well, because I'm a middle school librarian, so everything that I read is children's books, YA, try to keep up with graphic novels, and sometimes you need to just read something for yourself. And sometimes I don't know where to begin because I don't do reader's advisory for adults all the time, and if I do, it's usually like books for professional development, stuff like that. Or, the teachers will ask you what's popular with the kids because they want to know. But, we read Addie LaRue, and I feel like that kind of, it's like if you like Addie LaRue, you might like the Midnight Library. And I really want to read
Addie LaRue was our January book club.
Oh,
so I love that one. And I think when I said something about it, I think I finished it honestly before 2020, before 2021 started. I finished it at the end of the year and decided that it was probably my favorite book from last year. And I had one friend that started reading it, and she was like, I keep waiting for why Sherry loved it. And then she texted, she was like, oh, I'm there. I get it now, right? As far as like it was that slow burn, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh.
Exactly. It was a slow burn. I think we even said that on the show. Like, you don't know where it's going, and then okay, this is very interesting. I like how oh my goodness, V. Schwab, amazing. Yeah, just in so many different ways. So I'm excited because I feel like the Midnight Library, based on how you're explaining it, might fall into that category. If you like this, then you might like this. And I'm definitely going to check it out tonight because I'm done with homework. So
and we have extensions on homework, and we're already done, so we have time to read.
Yeah.
Look at y'all getting ahead of the game. I love it.
No, we just turned our stuff in on time. But because of the storm, Sam Houston has been closed all week, and our professors have just been giving everyone extensions and extensions and extensions. Yes. And we're already done. It's fine.
Yeah. But it gives us some time to breathe a little bit, like before the next module opens, and I can finally catch up with some comics. Yeah.
I'm still reading Salem's Lot by Stephen King. My favorite author boyfriend, Jay Kristoff, is writing a new or he's already finished it. We're just waiting for it to come out now. But he's writing a new vampire novel called Empire of the Vampire. And I'm trying to go through all the books that he said were like his inspiration for these vampires. Yeah. And I grew up on like Stephen King and Anne Rice, but I've never read Salem's Lot. And so I got it, the print version from the Austin Public Library. And I don't know why, but I feel like now that I'm in my 30s, I can't read print books anymore because I can't like zoom in.
Yeah.
So I got it on my Kindle. Oh my God, it is so creepy. I love it though. And then just reading research articles because school. But
I'm totally looking down at my Goodreads because I am not a Stephen King reader, and I have a really good friend that loves Stephen King, and I finally read my first Stephen King book last year.
Which one?
Because I have an awful memory. This is why I have a phone that remembers everything for me. So I'm trying to remember which one, because I was like, I need the least creepy of Stephen King's books to read. Right? Like, I'm not into the horror genre, and I don't really want to be scared. So
I love what I think is the least creepy is The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. I love it. It's about a little girl who gets lost, and she's in the woods, and she has to survive. And she ends up trekking, like, I want to say from like California to Washington on her own. And I mean, there's a monster that's following her, but it never goes into too much detail about the monster. It's more about her and like her survival. And spoilers, she survives. Gets out in the end. But
I already know there's kind of a happy ending, right? As far as like that goes.
It's creepy, but it's not scary. And that's one of my favorites. And it's not too long either. I love it.
I'll be scrolling, like that's going to drive me crazy. So talk amongst yourself while I try and remember the name of this one. I can tell you as far as like, I think it appears in other books. So it's like the teenagers are taken away from their home, and they don't know that their parents are killed when this happens, and they're taken to this place where their powers are honed. So it's like, oh, it's more like, for me, I was like, oh, I can get into this because it has that element of supernatural, natural / sci-fi that I really enjoy. And again, I don't know what the name of it is because I don't know.
So
there's Addie LaRue. Yay.
Oh, Addie.
Oh, I know. I love Addie. Addie's the best.
Anyway, I'm sure somebody at this point has already typed it into the chat. Like, how'd you say it, Sherry? How can you forget the name of it? So anyway, it was great. Another one I would recommend if you're not into The Institute. There it is. The Institute by Stephen King. I really enjoyed that one.
So, I haven't read that one. That's something that I need to add to The Institute.
Sounds so good. I haven't read that one.
Neither have
Not scary. So, but the element of intrigue is there. I'm all about intrigue.
Yeah. Well, Sherry, I love the horror genre. I'm like, just scare the crap out of me all the time, you know, all year long.
Scared the crap out of us October.
Yeah, like I don't like to reserve it just for Halloween in October. I love being scared all the time. I don't know why. There's something wrong with me, obviously. But no, there's these comics called The Ice Cream Man. And in issue 8, they introduced a character, like a clown character. Well, the same creator of The Ice Cream Man, which I
don't like clowns either.
Yeah.
No to clowns.
Okay, so Maxwell Prince. Okay, like you know how what's his face is your author boyfriend, Stephanie?
Jay Kristoff?
Yes. Okay, I think Maxwell Prince is my author comic creator boyfriend.
I mean, it might be a tie between him and Jason Reynolds.
Yeah.
But I feel like so many other women love Jason Reynolds that Jay Kristoff.
Yeah.
Pick one that you
love Jason Reynolds. But I think Amanda Hunt has us on that one.
For real. She loves him.
Oh my goodness. She's
anyway,
so
let's
cute.
get into the meat of the show.
Oh, yeah.
So talk books all day, right?
For real. I could
well,
talk
hold on. My read, the Ha Comics.
Yes.
Ha Comics. It's like a spin-off of one of the Ice Cream Man issues. And it takes place with like a group of clowns, and they're one shot. I think they're one shot. I don't know. I'm just gonna read it today, so I'm like super excited to dive into that. But anyway. Yeah, I know. I don't want to talk about it anymore because I know you guys don't like clowns. Neither do I, but I love Maxwell Prince. Oh my goodness. Anything that Image puts out, I just think
Image.
Yeah, Image Comics is my jam. Like, are you all hiring?
Dude, same. I would love to work for a comic book company. It'd be so much fun.
Me too. But anyway,
here
we are.
So this is Sherry Gick. She is a director of professional development with 5-Star Technology. I'm super excited to have her here. I met Sherry at, I don't know how many conferences we've been at the same time, but Sherry is a former librarian. So she's always at our librarian conferences, and she is like the Google and PD queen. I thought I knew a lot about Google, but when I hear about the things Sherry's doing, I'm like, I know nothing.
Oh my goodness. So
we're super excited to have you here. Tell our viewers about yourself.
So former librarian always makes me feel kind of funny, right? Because I'm like, once a librarian, always a librarian, which is why we're continuing to talk books, right? As far as, and Karina, why I still read children's books and middle school books and YA, my Goodreads is just all over the place. So I actually started out as a special ed teacher. So about 20 years in education, special education, went on to do my master's in elementary education, not because I wanted my own class, because bless elementary teachers, I don't know how they have that same class all day long and all children survive. Like that is a miracle in my eyes, you know what I mean? But with special education, I was doing so much team teaching and collaborating and going into classrooms. I didn't really have the skill set that I needed to do that. I knew how to work with my kids at the kidney table, right in front of me, and be able to modify and work with that group and then send them on their way and then work with the next group. So when I moved back home to North Carolina, they were leading kind of the country. Again, this was back in the dark ages, so I'm a lot older than y'all. So, but they were leading as far as like everything was full inclusion. And so all the special ed students were being taught in the classroom. And so I was like teaming up. And so I wanted to kind of get those tools in my tool belt, right? As far as like how to teach whole groups and large classes. And then went into, as far as like I had this super cool job in North Carolina, where once I had my first child, I was working kind of part-time for the school system, but it was something called a parent resource center. And so it was working with, honestly, like parents and before school age children. So like infants, preschool kids, and then the school age kids would come in at the end of the day, like after school hours. And so kind of a library. It was books, it was toys, it was resources, and, you know, setting up like tutoring and again, kind of early intervention type. So it was just like this conglomeration of things that I was interested in and able to do. And then when I ended up coming to Indiana, I was like, okay, spend some time home, not working, right? As far as I have 2 kids. And when I was ready to get back into working, I started working part-time at the public library, right? I've always had an interest in, I've always been a big reader. So started working part-time at the public library, doing like reference and AV, ordering videos and these and all that fun stuff. And I was like, you know what? I should probably like pursue this. Again, lifelong learner. It's like, let's go back to school, right? As y'all are working on your doctorates. I was like, let's do this. We can do this. And so I started working on taking library classes, but very quickly found in the public library world, I wasn't so keen about not being with my people, right? As far as like as an educator, I kind of missed that. So I had the opportunity to go back to teaching. And so I kind of put library on hold, and I went back to special ed for a year. And then that librarian retired unexpectedly. And I was like, oh, wait, I've got some library classes. This would be super cool. And so I was able to go on an emergency permit, interview and hire in at the school where I was already teaching and start that journey, right? And so I started, honestly, school full-time and working full-time. Like I was like, okay, I have to get at least in Indiana, it's 27 hours as far as to get that certification for school library. So I was able to, you know, get through that. And I loved library. I had the opportunity I was stationed right in the middle high school library, but I was still in charge of the elementary library where I had an awesome assistant. And so when I needed to, or felt like I really wanted to go read picture books to littles, you know, I could just, you know, close this library and go down there and, you know, collaborate and do technology down there. And so it was such a great situation. And I was able to do that for 8 years and loved it, right? As far as like, I've always said, school librarians, honestly, it is the absolute best job in the school because you get to work and teach with every single kid and have that opportunity, that circle of influence, you know, on just so many different things and develop those relationships and see them from year to year. I love that, right? At the middle school level. And again, our situation was unique because it was a super small system. So literally the libraries were in the same building, even though it was 2 schools. So I didn't even have to get in my car. I could walk to go see my kindergarten babies and then come back and hang out with my seniors. So like, that was awesome. And something that, you know, I could have retired from because again, it was a great situation. I loved what I was doing, connecting with other librarians across the country, because honestly, when you first get into library and even if you're taking classes, you're not learning everything that you need, right? As far as like, you're like, I'm supposed to look like I know what I'm doing, but what are you doing at your school? Because you're super unsure about this. And you know, all of those little questions that you can't ask because nobody in your building understands that. And so I think that's when I really started to get connected on Twitter and reach out because I needed some mentoring, right? As far as like, I needed some people that knew what they were doing that could help me actually raise my skills so that I actually wasn't just saying I knew what I was doing, but I literally did. So again, love that. But this opportunity came up where, so 5-Star Technology Solutions is actually located, it's a small company in Southern Indiana, and they were kind of on my radar where I would see them presenting at conferences or doing things in some of the schools in the area. I was like, that's really kind of interesting, right? As far as like, because my role as librarian grew into library and instructional technology specialist. So, as far as like, we did kind of some merging of roles and job responsibilities where I was also working with Canvas and teaching teachers how to do that. And, making that switch when we were ready to go one-to-one. What does that look like? What can we do with this? And so I wasn't just books, right? As far as like, I will always love literature and reading. And I think like that's so important, but merging those two kind of got me thinking, what if, right? As far as like, what does this look like? So when that opportunity came, I was like, I should try it. You know what I mean? As far as like, because in the back of my mind, I just kept thinking, if you don't, you're always gonna have that what if, right? As far as like going back to that book in the beginning, The Midnight Library, I would always wonder what was inside that book, right? If I didn't make that choice, or if I did make that choice, what would be different in my life to choose, to work for this technology company? Because again, they're focused on K through 12. I was like, so it's education, but not education, right? So, so I've been with them now. This is my 5th school year. It'll be 5 years in July that I've worked for 5-Star. So, and definitely, as everybody, 2020 was a year of change for our company, for our practices, for professional development, just in general. But it's still a choice every day. I'm like, it was a good one. I'm still feeling really, really glad about that choice.
So since 2020, was what it was, did you have to do a lot of webinars and, rethinking how you do trainings for teachers?
Yeah. So a lot of my job as being, professional development provider, we work locally. As I said, like we're located in Indiana. And so I had clients, schools and teachers that I work with within like a driving radius most of the time, where I would go and work with them for the day. But then we're also a Google professional development partner. So there were times I'd drive to the airport and get on the plane and go work and do a Google event or do professional development, based on whatever I was asked to do. So yeah, well, we say March 13th, actually I was at McCall. And so we were at McCall for sessions and for Google and for 5-Star, kind of a combination. And I remember, that was when we were starting to hear about COVID. And then the next morning, Google had gone home. And, kind of the message of it was like, and this and that. And so we're talking, and we're like, that's, the Michigan shut down that day, right? They're like, okay, we're going to be shutting down the state and this and that. And so we drove back, and that was the last conference as far as like face-to-face that we were participating in. And so March 13th, again, is the day that we kind of refer to in the company. We were all used to working somewhat from home, right? As far as like, you can't be on the road, you can't be in another location 5 days a week. You have to have some days when you're prepping and planning and getting things together for you to do when you get to a school or get to a location. So we were used to doing that, but I remember that transition because it was like, okay, here we are. We're all in our homes. Teachers are all in their homes. How do we make that switch? Because usually, even if it was just a 1 or 2 hour workshop, teachers and admins really wanted you on site, right? I just want my teachers do better when you're in the room. We don't want to do that computer thing, even though literally you're teaching them how to do a Google Meet, how to connect with their students and do those types of things. So we have done, honestly, like a 180 as far as how we're offering it, what that looks like. And so, our offerings for professional development now, we know that I can work with teachers in Oklahoma for an hour. I can switch and work with Chicago schools that next hour. And so we're able to have such a larger, I guess, influence, and not having to have that travel time is actually, I mean, obviously we can work more now, right? As far as like, you can do more events in that way. So it was definitely an adjustment, but I don't want to say it's a bad thing, right? As far as like, it's really nice when you get up in the morning and you just come downstairs to your home office. Yeah, I mean, like there's a lot of freedom in that, especially as we were talking about before we started recording, when it's really cold outside and you're like, I'm good. I can wear short sleeves inside my house. I'm not going out into the sub-zero temperatures, putting all my layers on. So there's a lot of good things about that. And honestly, I think a lot of it's been challenging for educators, but they've been able to get over that hump. And now they're like, this is cool. Like these are the things that we've been wanting educators to embrace, as far as like how to connect and how learning can continue. It shouldn't be something, oh, it's an e-learning day. Okay, so we have to get the computer out and access this learning management system that we've never touched. No, it's something you're already doing, right? As far as like, it should just be that continuation of learning. Students should feel comfortable with that, teachers too. Not that I am against a face-to-face, right? As far as like, because relationships, this is nice, but I would obviously much rather be in a room with both of you, right? As far as to be able to do that. And so we've adjusted as a team with that too, as far as like, how do we still connect and feel that camaraderie, working as a team, planning as a team, when honestly, I have people on our team now, our professional development team, that I've never met face to face because we hired during the pandemic. And so, because we've grown. And so I don't want to say it's the new normal, but kind of feels like the new normal. I feel like, as we're looking at conferences in the future, I'm really interested to see what 2022 looks like.
Right.
I feel like, we're seeing some events being planned in the fall, and I'm like, I don't think I can quite register for that or jump on that, because there were too many events planned for 2020, right? It's like cancel. And so this year it's like, let's just wait, right? As far as like, let's all get vaccinated, and then 2022 we can hopefully return to what that looks like. But I think we'll continue to see this, because teachers, honestly, if they don't have to pay more to attend a conference and can get that learning right here and have their work mullet on, right? As far as like business on the top, party on the bottom, where I don't have to be all dressed up. I could be hanging out in my pajamas and still connecting and learning. I think there's a lot of value to that, again, Steph, you know what I'm saying, as far as like, we want schools to embrace that, because it's so important in that voice and choice to be able to have those opportunities and not have to spend an arm and a leg to get that learning. So
I love that you bring that up, because I feel like learning, the format that you choose should definitely be the choice. Not all of us from Title I schools can afford to go in person and afford the hotel rates and the airfare, whatever it is, or however the travel goes. And if there's that access to online professional development, I mean, you're including the people who weren't able to attend in the first place. And that's always been a conversation that Stephanie and I have. Like, that is awesome that at the time, right, her district could afford to take her places, and I couldn't go because, my schools didn't have the funds, or, and in that case, sometimes it's not a priority, unfortunately, for districts to send their teachers or their library media specialists, or, whomever, to different conferences. Sometimes professional development does not take the priority unless it's locally based with, the immediate facility, or, their district. But I feel like, just like you mentioned, online learning for adults is so important now, because they need to see the similarities in learning trends, not just in themselves, but how the students can possibly get based on whatever the teacher's experiences are too. Like the kids are learning online. What about you? What are you doing to fill that need in your own learning? Because that's something you can definitely model for the kids. Those are my
and to be in that role, right? As far as
Yes.
I think it's really one of the things I always stress is I would never want my students to experience something that honestly I haven't tried, right?
Yeah.
As far as we need to learn about it, experience it from that student's perspective, and then it makes you better able to teach it. So I think that's really important. And Karina, especially as you were talking about removing those barriers,
yes.
I mean, every year the conversation online becomes how much did that conference cost? Right? What are they charging? What are the hotel rooms? And I mean, it's astronomical. And so, looking at even ISTE this year is going to still be online, virtual as it was last year. And so again, that price point has come down, which has been so controversial.
So excited.
Yeah, right. I know y'all were presenting there. I saw.
Yeah. So. I've never been able to go to ISTE because of the price and the travel. And now being able to actually take part in it, oh my God, I'm so excited.
Yeah, I know.
So, I mean, again, removing those barriers, I think is just really, really important. I mean, I hope we'll go back to having some face-to-face conferences because again, that's when we get together with our people, and there's nothing like that experience, but I'm just interested to see maybe what that hybrid looks like moving forward. And that what we've learned from this is that we're going to still hopefully offer that blended opportunity where more people can participate and be a part of that learning.
Yeah, I loved how TCEA did their conference this year and how all of the, I don't want to say smaller presentations, but the ones that weren't like sponsored by Google or Microsoft, like our presentation on how we did our own virtual conference, all of those were pre-recorded and they're on demand through March. So I think that was amazing for them to do because all the teachers who normally, wouldn't have access to just that week, or maybe they were only able to go a few days because TCEA is the entire 5-day week.
It's a long conference.
It's hard to do the whole week. And so I was so excited with the access that all these teachers are still going to get to have, and they get to go in on their own time, choose what they want to do. They're not restricted to like, oh, I can only go to this session at this time and then have to run across the building, go to another one. They have access to everything.
Yeah.
And I'm loving that. Like, I am so proud of TCEA and how they did conference this year.
Yeah. And the lines are too long for me to get into this session because I didn't wake up at 5 a.m. to stand in line for the really popular session.
Yeah.
And that was definitely, and I don't know if anyone else has had this encounter, but I signed up for an online conference, but I'm still working. Obviously there's still some responsibilities I need to take care of. It's not like the physical conference where I'm gone,
Right.
Library's closed. I don't have an assistant. So the library's closed while I'm gone. And then, I'm in another city doing what I got to do. And then I come back versus, okay, I'm still working. But with the on-demand sessions, I can do my work, go through my work day and then at night catch up. And I'm still catching up on sessions because there's just there were so many good topics and I don't want to miss any of it. So I'm glad that they extended the on-demand viewing till, what was it, March, right?
March 5th, I think.
Yeah. So definitely taking advantage of that because that's not something you go to a conference and then you leave and then that's it, And it's like, oh man.
And with the videos, like you said, as far as like you can watch, you can rewatch. You have that option. And I think that really a lot of us are getting spoiled to that. As far as having that availability, you see something, you're like, that's cool. There's no way that I can actually join that live session, but I'm still going to register because it's going to come to my email and I'm going to get that recording right there to access for later, which is so convenient. That being said, sometimes I sign up and still, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, I didn't get a chance to watch that, because that is the downside. Is I'm looking and I'm thinking, gosh, I'm starting to get a headache. Why? Because I don't have my blue light glasses on, right? Because it's like after you spend 8 hours in front of a computer, it's like, oh, do I really want to watch a video tonight? And so prioritizing which ones that I want. But I do love that availability as far as having that access. I think is so important.
For real. So you've talked about, what you do and how you got there. What do you like best, and what are some challenges in your new position?
So I think originally, anytime you move from education into something that's not school-based, that's a huge learning curve, right? As far as, like I said, I worked in education for 20 years, as far as like that 7:30 to 3:30 schedule. You live by the bell, you know what I mean? Even at the elementary level, it may not be a bell, but you have that schedule as far as like what time specials are happening and when are you going to be able to have a minute and a half to actually make it to the bathroom and get back before somebody's going to be in your library. You know what I mean? Like it's so time crunched. And so that was an adjustment, especially as I was saying, as far as like having the time at my house in my office where I'm prepping before I go to a school. And you're like, I need to use the bathroom. And you're so used to not responding to that. And you're like, wait a minute, I can do that, right? Like I can do that. I can put a load of laundry in and keep working and then put it into the dryer. Again, like some of these things are so weird and you feel super guilty about it because you are so used to, because, there's that perception that, oh, what do librarians do? You just check out books all day. Like, first of all,
we do everything.
I'm like, after the first year, I stopped checking out the books. I'm like, what the heck? Why am I doing this? Y'all check out the books because I want to be over here teaching, recommending books, working with teachers, and let students check out their own books. I was like, I am not the keeper of the books, right? Let the students do that. But so used to, as far as like, I think justifying your importance, right? As far as like, because librarians across the country, I'm loving your shirt, Stephanie. I have one as well, right? America needs librarians, but there's such a misconception as to what we do and how we do it. You're so used to justifying every single minute of your day. And so to have that removed and be trusted as a professional that the work will get done. It's a very huge adjustment, but one, again, that I've appreciated. So it's like, okay, they know I'm going to do the work, and whatever that flexibility looks like. I mean, obviously there are times when it's very regimented as well, because you're like, I've got to be at this school, but then I'm going to have to be at the school right afterwards, right? So what does that travel time look like? And so every day is different, which of course every day in the library is different as well, which I love. I love variety. And so that, making that jump was good, but definitely a little bit different there. Other challenges, we have an awesome team, and we've kind of been looking at our team the past week as we are, again, interviewing. And so looking at what do we look for in a team member, what skills, or, what do we value? And some of the conversations have come back to what are the challenges? And it's like, you know what? Sometimes it's imposter syndrome because you're working with this team of amazing educators and you're like, I have no idea. Like that person just shared something. You're like, oh, I didn't know you could do that in Google. Like I'm jotting it down, and you're continuously learning, but just remembering like you're in this position for a reason, right? You have some skill sets and knowledge that they don't as well, but it can be, I mean, I think we feel that way at conferences when we get to present and then you're like, why is she coming to my session? Like she could totally teach this session, right? And so I think that imposter syndrome is just something that permeates us, and we have to remember to value ourselves, right? As far as like, again, I'm here for a reason. I have value too. I have skills, but that self-talk is really important, no matter where you are and what role.
I love that you talked about that because I feel like, especially now when, we all love educational technology, like we're here for it. We want to push, we want to help teachers get better at it. But there are so many times when you think like, maybe I need to learn something else. And maybe, I don't know what I think I know. And that imposter syndrome has really crept up on a lot of teachers and educators because of the pandemic. And I think what you said is important, that self-talk and knowing, what I know is enough and what I'm doing is important. And I think so many teachers need to hear that right now. So thank you for saying that.
And I think it's okay. I mean, like I always had this attitude with my students. If they asked me something I didn't know, I didn't make up an answer.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not sure. Let's see if we can figure that out together, or or what do you know about this? And so I think the same is true with teachers. It's okay not to be, again, the purveyor of all knowledge. It's okay to say, I don't know. Let's Google that. Where can we look for these answers?
Yeah.
And Stephanie, I bet this has happened to you. I've been in the middle of leading sessions and have a question come up that I don't know the answer to. And especially with Google, right? As far as like, we just had all the big announcements come out this week. And so in the back of my head, like, there's going to be so much learning to make sure that we're saying the right things that go with all the new updates. But, things change so quickly in ed tech. You have to be okay with going, let's double check on that. I think it's such and such. And I've seen Fry do the same thing, right? As far as we're presenting things live, you're like, I'm pretty sure this is the answer, but let's be sure, right? And I think that really shows, I think people value that as well. You know what I mean? As far as like that genuineness, that you're not just going to just give me an answer that may or may not be correct. You want to be certain, right? So
yeah, I have to remind my teachers about that too. Sometimes they'll reach out to me during their conference periods on Teams and they'll say, how do you do this? And there's certain restrictions that I have because I don't have classes assigned to me. So I'll have to manually add students to my class and kind of see, and I'll tell them like, from the beginning, like, okay, just keep in mind that I don't have the same, importing of students and data that you have on your end. I just give me like an hour.
Let me figure it out.
Let me research it, right? That's what we do. We're librarians. We're always going to want to test it and research it so that I'm giving you the best answer.
Exactly. So I don't say, okay, well, I don't know, bye. It's like, let me figure it out. Like, give me the day at least, give me a few hours to get the kids involved. Let me see if maybe they can pretend to turn in an assignment to me, and then I can do a screen recording just in case we can't meet in the afternoon. So, that flexibility in knowing that, I guess, not knowing gives you the flexibility to say, okay, I don't know, but let me see what I can do for you anyway. Or this is what I found. This is what somebody else has done. Someone else has done on this tutorial. Maybe that might help. And if it doesn't, because it's a specific issue to our district, technology infrastructure, then, I have to go higher up to somebody else. And it's a team effort. And I think that's what a lot of people need to acknowledge, is it's like, it just doesn't fall on the educator themselves. When you're working online, it's an entire network of people. It's the educator, it's your end users, right? And then the people that create the systems, like all the way to the top. And sometimes it's gotten to the point where I just need to reach out to May, right? Because she oversees the Google Trainer stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what the answer is. Like, help me. And, and then involving yourself in those online communities, whatever certifications that you may have that are stressing the importance of different tools that you use, in your schools, reaching out to those online communities is so important too, because we are working online, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, I've only known about you online. I've stalked you a couple of times. And I always thought, like, oh yeah, that'd be cool to see at a conference in Ann Arbor. And then look at us now.
Here we are.
Here we are. It's just the importance, right, of networking and online and building those relationships, I think, most important, to get the answers that we need for the people that we work for and with.
Yeah. I think the important thing about that whole thing is we're still learning. We're in the positions we are, and there's no way for us to know everything. And so when somebody asks us something that we might stumble on, it's having that, not just humility, but that modeling of, I don't know, but let's figure it out, and I think that that's super important as educators, because we need to, not just for each other, but showing the kids, like, I don't know everything, and it's okay.
And I'm never going to, right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's not something we're ever going to get to. And so
Yeah.
I love that. And also, you know, knowing who are my best people to ask, right? Where are my best sites to look for it? So different types of resources. People are always my number one resource, right? As far as like you said, Karina, what's happening? Is this been discussed in the trainer listserv that we need to kind of check some of those emails? Maybe other people are having similar, you know, problems. And then, you know, what does that look like? And so modeling that for teachers, that it's important to have those places to ask questions. Like, you can't always be available 24/7 to every single one of your teachers in your building. And you know what I mean? And I think that sometimes we feel like that, especially when you are the librarian in the building, you feel like it all rests on your shoulders. And so helping them, you want them to reach out to you, but you want them to learn places that they can find those answers too.
Exactly. And building those resources to help them become, you know, self-reliant and self-directed in their learning. You know, creating a Google Classroom specifically for my teachers, a Teams channel specifically for my teachers was very important. You know, teaching them how to access, most importantly, where everything is. And I've just seen so many teachers take off with it. And now I'm so proud of them, because we'll be in a meeting and somebody will ask me a question and another teacher will chime in with the answer. And I'm like, yes, that is what I wanted. Yes, like, thank you so much. Because it's hard to answer, you know, 100 questions a day from the students. And then, you know, and the fact that they're helping each other out now, they're building little online communities with each other. It makes me want to cry, because I'm like, I try to tell them as often as I can, like, I'm so proud of you. Like, look at how much you've learned, you know, this year, like things that you felt you never would have tackled. And because you had to look at all the possibilities, look at all the doors that it's open, look at all the experience you've gained, the skills that you've mastered, because you trusted in, yes, me to help you, but in yourself to, like, trust yourself to look for the answer and actually do it and go about it, and you know, just empower. It's so empowering.
Yeah.
And I'm just so proud. So if any of my teachers are watching, I love you. I'm so proud of you.
That's the best feeling, right? As far as like, because you love to see growth in, I mean, you have that relationship with your teachers. You love to see growth in your students, but your teachers also, because you're growing them as well. And so 2020, again, craziness, awful things, but in education, I really feel like it allowed that fast forward button to happen, right? As far as like, and like you said, things that we never thought that we could accomplish in 1 year. You know what I mean? As far as that complete pivot. Oh, we're going to be teaching virtually in 3 days. Okay. Teachers were like, bring it, right? As far as like, we don't know what we're doing, but we're going to figure it out, because this is what we have. And we want to do what's best for kids, right? We want to do what's best for our students. And so again, that voice inside their head might've been saying, I have no idea what I'm doing, but that smile on their face every time they were joining that classroom, right? As far as like connecting with their students and being able to do that. And so, like you said, you did it, right? Like you did the hard things. And now you're like, now that you did it, what can I refine? Like, what are the things you still want to learn about? So yeah, I mean, education, teachers have just been rock stars last year and beyond. Like, it's just been amazing to watch.
If I could give a digital badge to every single teacher out there, I would.
We should make a 2020 badge, like 2020 survival teacher.
Oh my gosh. Yes. From Tech It Over, feel free to paste it on your blog.
Go ahead and design that. Yeah, send it out. We'd like to see it. So those of you watching, we want to see that great design.
Yes. On Twitter, I actually, man, I wish I need to go back and properly cite this person, but somebody had said in a Twitter comment, there is no rubric for teaching during a pandemic, for learning during a pandemic. So, I mean, as much as we try to,
I'm going through so many sticky notes right now.
Yeah. As much as we try,
it was our first world pandemic, right? None of us. There was no measuring stick for it. Like you said, no rules, no rubric. I mean, again, none of us have ever been through a world pandemic before.
Exactly. Exactly. This is hopefully a once in a lifetime thing. Hopefully, but now we're recognizing it shed light on so many things that we have as educators have said, like, look at the digital divide, equitable access to technology. We've been saying this for years. There's so many hundreds and hundreds of studies. And now everyone, government officials like, oh, like it's a surprise. How long have we been saying this? I mean, we do not have the technological infrastructure to do this properly or in the manner that you want us to, in order for our students to get these gains on these assessments. Like this is not how we should be assessing anything. Like, we do not know. We're trying our best to navigate this new era of learning, as cliche as that sounds now, but it's true. I mean, there's no way to add a measure to that. And it's, the kids are doing the best they can, and I'm proud of them every single day that they come in. I tell Stephanie, like, oh my God, I'm answering all these kids' like responses. There's like over 200 comments on the library's Google Classroom a day from students. And I'm like, I'm so proud of them for what, like, yeah, it blows up and I'm trying to catch up with all their comments, but I'm proud of them for showing up, because they could easily. Yes, they're asking, they're showing up, they're turning on their computers, they're talking about their classes. I sent an email to my teachers, like, if you're wondering if you're doing a good job, just know that you are, because these kids are blowing up the stream, talking about between class and asking me where they can find this or that. Like, you're doing a good job. Like, that is not the question. It's just, we're trying the best we can, and everyone needs to, I think everyone just needs to really pat themselves on the back, because yeah, everyone needs a digital badge. We need to work on that, Stephanie.
I have it written on the sticky. Everyone is doing the best that they can, and that's what we all have to remember, right? As far as like, we don't know what's happening outside of the camera, outside of this, tiny little bit of the virtual world that we're seeing. And so, remember, if a teacher is struggling with something, what else is going on, right? If a student isn't showing up, what else is going on? I mean, that big picture, like you said, all the disparity and inequity that this has brought to light. I think one of the things that we just keep continuously reminding our team about is, our mantra is grace, right? We're going to extend grace to you. When you see my cat come across the keyboard, when I see your kid right beside of you, because you're doing the best that you can. I mean, this is the world that we are living in, and hopefully it's brought our humanity more to light, right? As far as like that, we cannot have a perfect facade all the time, right? As far as like, I think it's made us more human in acknowledging, as far as like, this is what's going on, and I'm doing the best I can. So extending that grace to everyone, I think is really important.
I love that you bring that up, because I don't know if you guys remember that. Oh man, definitely way before all this happened. It was that guy, he was on some news channel, and his little girl walks into the room and she's like dancing, and the mom comes in and grabs her, like, oh my God.
She had, I remember, like a yellow shirt or something, like that bright color.
Yes. And I remember everyone saying like, oh my God, how embarrassing. And it's like, hey, look at you now. You're behind the screen, you're doing, like, that guy was foreshadowing something, because because now that's everybody's reality and not just his. And that guy was ahead of the curve from how many years ago. Yeah, I don't know. I just always think about that guy, because it's like, yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, Sherry, do you have a favorite tech tool that you have had, like, that you've been using frequently, or that you've been recommending the most to teachers through all this?
You know what? I live in the Google ecosystem, right? As far as like, that's just what I do. And one thing, like, if I'm at a conference, I'm talking to you about Keep, right? As far as like organizing, because I really love that online app. But what I tend to fall back for creating, for doing anything on, is Google Slides. They are so versatile. Instead of putting something into a Google document, I love Slides as far as being able to kind of change the exact, the width, the length, what that looks
Yep.
like. So it could look like a piece of paper, and you can just customize it so much. So I love Google Slides. It's like the Swiss Army knife of Google. Being able to pull that one out, you can just do amazing things with a slide. They're not just PowerPoint. You know what I mean? As far as like, it's not just for sharing information. So I think
I love that. The Swiss Army knife.
that tends to be my go-to.
Yeah.
What?
We were just talking about that. I was telling Karina how much I love slides and how I use them for everything. They're just, they're amazing. I love it.
Really, so versatile. So that's for creation. That's where I tend to live. It feels like.
Awesome. There's just so much you can do. So much you can do. Yeah, definitely.
Well, we're so grateful to have you here today. Where can our viewers find you?
I think probably the best thing, we've alluded to this earlier, but Twitter's where I tend to connect. So Sherry Gick on Twitter. That's my handle in a couple different places. So I won't mention the long forgotten blog. It's still out there. There's no material on it. It's one of those things you're like, one day I'm going to, but I'm extending grace to myself. Right now, I am not blogging at the end of the day or adding information there. But I'd love to connect on Twitter.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah, definitely. Well, let me put that up again just in case, guys. In case you missed that, follow Sherry Gick on Twitter at Sherry N Gick. Trust. She posts just amazing content, and she is a big reader, and I'm noticing yes, there's definitely some literacy connections there too. So you're a librarian watching, so much to learn from you, Sherry. You're just so full of knowledge and so fun. Oh my gosh, you are so fun. Stephanie, that's all she could say was no, you're really gonna like her. I'm I'm nervous. I've never met her. So fun, so humble, so down to earth. Oh my goodness, you're so cute.
All right, Sherry. Well, thank you so much for being here. Do you have anything else you want to share with our viewers before we end tonight?
Thanks again for having me. It's been, again, just fun just to hang out, right, Karina? As far as I feel like we're old friends, just talking and catching up rather than just meeting for the first time. Again, I think you heard me mention this, but teachers, get yourself some blue light glasses.
Yes.
It is really, really important, and I've got them kind of at each desk. So if you are spending a lot of time in front of the screen, then they are worth it. I just bought mine on Amazon, right? As far as our whole team ordered them, and we're like, okay, we don't know if it's placebo effect, but it's working for me. So give them a try.
They do make a difference for sure. Absolutely. And you're right. Amazon, I got 3 for $15. So
exactly, right?
I have 2 in Amazon search.
A mug full of my blue light glasses.
Yeah,
I love them.
Yeah, they're all over the house. I don't even keep track of them anymore. It's just whatever I find.
Although I do find myself trying to use them like my real glasses, and I'm like, no, Sherry, you have contacts in. They're not bifocals. You're not going to be able to see anything more clearly. You're still going to have to, Stephanie said earlier, you're still going to have to zoom, have to control plus and make that a little bit bigger. So
that is so cute. Well, thank you so much, Sherry, for being on our show and for celebrating our 13th.
Lucky 13.
Yes, so excited. For those of you watching today, just watch out for our next episode. Hopefully, if we're not thrown any weather-related curveballs, we should be on episode 14. Wednesday, March 3rd, we'll be going live with Allie the librarian and
podcasting.
Yes, on podcasting. She does such an amazing job with podcasting for her students. And she has her own podcast as well, Allie the Librarian Book Talks. Make sure to check it out on Apple Podcasts or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. So I can't wait for you all to meet her because she's great. And again, Sherry, thank you so much for joining us on our 13th episode. You're amazing. And if you haven't followed her, make sure to follow her. Please on Twitter at Sherry N Gick. Well, guys, that's it for tonight. So, Stephanie, do you want to do our sign off?
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Stay positive
and test negative.
Bye.
Night, guys.